So have you ever wondered what all the different types of compressors are available in Logic and what scenarios you should be using them in? Today, we're going to be answering that question. Hi, my name is Tyson. I am a mastering engineer here at Dinosaur Dog Mastering. Before we dive into the actual content, I do want to let you know I have a free checklist available with this video. You can check out the first link in the description to get that guide. It is the ultimate mixing checklist to help you get better, faster, more professional mixes. There's a bunch of different types of compressors inside of Logic by default. One reason why I love Logic Pro so much is because these compressors are actually really good. We're gonna walk through each of them and explain what they are and what scenarios you should probably be using them in your mix. The first type of compressor we run into is the digital platinum compressor. This is Logic Pro's own digital compressor. It's not modeled off of any analog software. The benefits of this digital compressor is that it is extremely precise and very, very transparent, meaning it doesn't add any color to the tracks that you're compressing. This is actually the most common compressor that I use inside of Logic Pro because it is so transparent. When I just want to be able to control dynamics and I don't want to add any color to the tracks, this is my go-to compressor because it's so precise and easy to use. I can control my tracks extremely well with this type of compressor. The digital platinum you can use on any track. I probably wouldn't do it on the mix bus just because there is something to some of these other compressors that's probably better to add a little bit of characteristic to your songs. But overall, you can use this anywhere for really any purpose. Number two is the Studio VCA. This is actually based off of the Focusrite Red 3 compressor, VCA compressor. And this is a fairly transparent compressor. It's really good to use on bass, vocals, and your mix bus. The biggest reason why I would use this compressor is because it has a very fast response to signals. So if you want a faster attack, this would be a great compressor to use. It does measure peak response. So if you do want a little bit of coloration, but you also want to be able to control those transients inside of your vocal, this would be a great compressor to reach for. Honestly, I almost never use this compressor personally. The third compressor that you'll find inside of Logic, it is called the Studio FET. And this is modeled off the 1176 Universal Audio compressor. It's the blackface version. So the biggest difference between this and any of the previous models we've already talked about is that it has a ton of color. So if you want to add some of those analog vibes to your tracks, this is a great compressor to reach for in order to do that. Because it's a FET type compressor, it does have a very fast transient response if you are looking for that. And so it's great on drums and vocals and really anything that you need a fast response on, but also want to add some of those good analog vibes. All right, the fourth compressor we have is the classic VCA type compressor. This is modeled off of a DBX 160. The original version of this compressor was known for adding a lot of character, but also not having basically any flexibility and control over certain parameters, such as the attack, release, and knee functionality of the compressor. So this is a basically one-stop shop for thickness type compression. You can't adjust the attack and release. It is a very fast attack, or relatively fast attack, and it adds some thickness and just some analog saturation to your tracks. This compressor I don't use very often because I want more control over my thickness type compression, but it is a great option if you just want a quick and dirty, easy thickness type compression that you can throw on a track really easily and dial in very quickly with only 3 controls. The fifth compressor is one of my favorite compressors inside of the Logic suite, and it is a Vintage VCA. It is based off of the SSL G compressor. So it's actually their console bus compressor that has been made into the digital version of whatever it is. The ultimate bus compressor, or one of the ultimate bus compressors made of all time. So I generically would not use this on an individual track like a drum, kick drum, or a snare, but I would use it on the drum bus. It's also my go-to compressor generally for mix bus processing if I'm reaching for a stock Logic compressor. The sixth compressor that you'll find inside of the Logic Pro suite of stock compressors is the Vintage FET. This compressor will also add a lot of color to your tracks and some good analog vibes. It is also another variation of the 1176 by Universal Audio. It is really great on drums, bass, vocals, anything that really could use some analog saturation or coloring and a fast response. So you still have a lot of control over it, but again, it's going to color your tracks a lot more than most of the VCA type compressors will. And then the seventh and last compressor that we're going to talk about today is the vintage opto compressor. This is based off of the LA2A, one of the most famous compressors of all time. And this is the only opto or optical type compressor that Logic Pro has in its stock arsenal. This compressor is great on vocals and stringed instruments and terrible on pretty much everything else. The reason is that because it's an opto type compressor, it doesn't have as consistent or reliable response to audio going into it. So the benefit is it's generically more musical and adds its own kind of flavor to the track, but it will not react very quickly to fast transients such as drums. Don't use an opto on your drums or most buses, definitely not your mix bus, and definitely not in any mastering scenario, but do use it on your vocals, because honestly, this is my go-to compressor for vocals because it just sounds good. The Logic Pro version does have a lot more control over the compressor and its various parameters than the actual original LA2A. The original LA2A basically has everything hard-coded inside of the compressor itself. You have an input and output knob, and that's all you have inside of the LA2A, which sounds great. Honestly, I generally use an emulation of this by Slate Digital that does only have those two parameters. The Logic version, you have more control over this compressor than you do in most other emulations of this compressor. I hope this was helpful in determining exactly how to use these compressors. If you missed my other video on the actual types of compressors that exist, namely the VCA, the FET, and the opto type compression, you can watch that video as well to gain a little bit more perspective on what types of compressors you should be using for what tracks in your mix. All right, with that said, thanks for watching. And if you found this at all helpful, please subscribe and turn on notifications as I release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in order to help you get better mixes. All right, with that said, thanks for watching and have a fantastic week.